Let's do a very, very quick power rankings. I'm going to give ourselves sort of 3 to 4 minutes to do it here. I'm going to bring it up on screen and we'll just look at what it was the last time that we did one just a couple of months ago. And boy, it's looking a bit ugly here for me. So we had Limerick at number 1, Waterford 2, Cork 3, Dublin 4, Tipperary 5, Wexford 6, Galway 7, Kilkenny 8, Clare 9, Antrim 10, Laois 11. It's Laois 11 and Westmeath 12. Oh, God, where do we start out? Right, so we don't have to worry about Limerick changing. They're staying up here at the top, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about Waterford changing either, realistically.
Yeah, okay. Cork, they're going to be careering down the hill here. But let's just go with number 3, first of all. Are we looking at Galway? Are we looking at Clare? Are we looking at Dublin, for example? What do you think?
Probably be either Galway or Clare for me, with Kilkenny not too far behind them. That's what I'd be looking at the moment for third best team in the country. I have to say now, I haven't been blown away by Galway. That was a good result yesterday, but I definitely wasn't blown away by them against Wexford. Yeah, Clare and Galway is tight. I'd have to say. Now we had Clare at 9. We have to say there was a caveat in it. We thought they had an awful lot of potential. It was just a matter of I think there was doubts about whether Tony Kelly was going to be back at that stage. What are you looking at? Are you looking at Galway or Clare here?
Well, it looks like we're scrabbling for a bit of respectability by talking about why Clare are down at 9. Either way, it's not looking great. I think we'd have to put Clare up at number 3. I do think we have to kind of take our medicine, take our licks on that one.
Just a point on maybe justifying that. They were obviously beaten by Cork by a score last year, a Cork team who got to the All-Ireland final. We had Munster teams as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the end of last year's championship. So if Clare are the third team in Munster are going to come out of Munster, as it looks like they will, have we been shown any reasons to suggest that the Munster championship is not as strong as it was last year? Like as in the top 3 teams, shall we say?
Well, we'll put it this way. They didn't just beat Tipperary and Cork. They dominated long spells of both games.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet what's going to happen against both Limerick and Waterford. But I think we have to give them their dues and say the way they've played so far this year, physicality, athleticism, scoring, the fact that they're missing quite a few players, I think we just have to say number 3.
And as well as that, Shane O'Donnell is back since we had them ranked at 9. And there's no doubts about whether he's back at that level. Same with Peter Duggan, same with Tony Kelly. So yeah, I'd happily have Clare at 3. I'd probably have Galway at a marginal 4.
Ahead of Dublin, who've won 3 from 2 of the games were against the sides that were always going to be in relegation bother.
Okay, you have to look at where you're going to be putting Wexford here.
Yeah,
and I would have Dublin just ahead of Wexford.
Yeah, well, they did beat them. Yeah,
but I'd have them still behind Kilkenny.
You'd have Dublin behind Kilkenny?
I would, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so...
The problem is with Leinster is Dublin have played obviously Wexford, and they've played, the 2 of the weaker teams. So of Kilkenny. I would put Kilkenny's league form and, been beaten by Galway by a point ahead of Dublin beating Wexford by a point, shall we say.
Look, the reason that I'd be leaning towards Kilkenny being ahead of Dublin is in Championship, generally, they hold the whip hand over them, and obviously they're back-to-back Leinster champions. So I'd agree with that. I would have Galway ahead of Kilkenny at this point. So it seems like we're leaning towards Galway being at number 4.
Yeah.
So I'd still have Kilkenny ahead of Wexford.
Yeah, I would too, yeah.
But I think Dublin have to be ahead of this would be the order I'd go with. I'd go with Galway, Kilkenny, Dublin, Wexford.
Tipperary, we're 7 counties and they're not even in the reckoning yet.
Hey, look, I mean, I've had to take a nice few doses of humble pie in the last few days. I don't want to eat much more, so I'm just going to put them down the pecking order here. Hey, and no one would be happier if Tip proved everyone wrong and won their final 2 games of Munster, but, let's be realistic.
Who will, are Tip ahead of Cork? I think so. Oh, do you?
Yeah, don't do me like that. Don't do me dirty here live.
Well, I'll put it this way, right? I know they were well beaten in the league final, but Cork did get to a league final. They were beaten by Limerick. What did Limerick beat them by? Was it 8 or 9 in the wind-up? Cork. And based on form, Clare beat Tipperary well. Clare, you could say beat Cork well, but it was only 2 points on the scoreboard.
Cork gave 2 fairly gutless displays so far. I mean, that's what everyone's saying about them. Tipperary were poor against Clare, but gave Waterford a very, very good game. So I think from that point alone, you got to put Tip a little bit higher up.
I think it's peculiar how you said Cork had 2 gutless displays, and you just said Tipperary were very poor against Cork.
I'm thinking of muting your mic.
I'd say you probably should have used the same word potentially that you used for Cork in Tipperary's case there, but I can understand why you were reluctant not to. I'd be still having Cork ahead of Tipperary, to be honest with you.
Okay, I'm not having that, and I'm going to put Tip ahead of Cork anyway.
I can't. Like, Tipperary showed nothing in the league, absolutely nothing in the league. Fair enough, they were beaten 4 points by Waterford. They were handed their ass on their home patch in a championship game.
Okay, fine. Do you know what? You deal with the slings and arrows. Actually, we won't get any.
Listen, you don't need to talk anymore. You don't need to talk about any more about that. I'm kind of happy with that. Antrim, see, it's a funny one. Antrim are in the McDonagh and operating in the McDonagh. They obviously they held their Division 1 status. Laois and Westmeath are both operating in the Liam McCarthy.
But Laois relegated Antrim in the 2 different competitions last year. So I think from that point of view, Laois have to be the top of the 3 of these teams.
That's I was going to say I'd nearly have them the bottom of the 3.
Laois.
Well, at the moment, Shane, like, they were beaten well. They were good against Dublin. They were competitive against Dublin. Like, they were well beaten against Kilkenny. Shipped a huge score. What was it? 234. Shipped 5 goals in the last 20 minutes the other day. And the way I look at it is, where's the potential for a turning around? Can you see it turning around over the next 2 games?
Well, if they get a few more players back, like they got Willie Dunphy back, if they can get 1 or 2 more back, I think there's a chance. Westmeath, yes, they were decent against Dublin, but they were fairly hockeyed in their other games. And I know
they were decent against Kilkenny as well. Now, to be fair,
but was it 337 or something like that? They conceded
336, yeah, 336, yeah.
Well, look, just by virtue of the fact that they've kind of stayed in Leinster the last couple of years, I think until they get knocked down by one of these teams, we have to give them the respect, show them the due respect here, and keep them top. They relegated Laois last year, or Antrim last year.
Yeah, it's funny. We're projecting here, obviously. So I'd look at Richard Hogan says Antrim ahead of Tip Cork. Come on, Richard. Sew it in when you get a chance. I'm kind of looking at projecting at where it will be at the end of the year. I think Antrim will win the McDonagh, and at the moment, I think Laois will be relegated.
Well, look, you had your way with the Cork Tip one. I'm going to have my way with this one.
Oh,
yeah, and like Westmeath's performances have been pretty strong, and then I think is that not fair enough?
Oh, I think we're being harsh on Antrim there, I have to say.
But sure, they got relegated. They've only themselves to blame.
They got relegated, but they've won their 3 McDonagh games. They've 1 foot in the final. They're one win away from being back up in Liam McCarthy, whereas one of Laois or Westmeath are not going to be in Liam McCarthy next year.
Yeah, but we're talking about where's the ranking right now, and right now Antrim aren't even in the top 2.
And there's a bit of projection. There's a bit of projection.
Well, what have you done for me lately?
Anyway. I think Antrim have been very harshly done by there. Tipperary have not been harshly done by.
You're just always looking to play both sides. So look,
no, I'm not, Shane. I'm actually not. I have good time for Laois, but I potentially think Laois are the bottom of the pile of those 3. And I agree with SSRI there. I think morale is very, very low in Laois. The middle ground is like Laois 11 and maybe but you won't put Antrim at 10, which I can kind of understand, but I think it's very harsh. I'd have Antrim ahead of Westmeath.
Yeah, I'm not.
I just, there has to be a bit of jiggery pokey there with this. I know we're fighting over the third to last or second to last or last spot, but I don't know. Based on league form and even on the McDonagh Cup form, I'd have Antrim ahead of one of them.
And would you have Offaly ahead of any of them?
No,
in case people are wondering why it's 12, we started off basing it on the amount of teams that were in the top tier in the league, so we're going to keep it at 12.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have Offaly in the top 12 at the moment, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't have Kerry ahead of. Not going to have Kerry ahead of Laois and Westmeath. No, I'd have Antrim at 11 or 10.
Okay, well, look, we're going to stick with that anyway. So,
are we? Yeah, we're sticking with that. Are we? You've made an executive decision.
Well, you made a decision on Tipperary. You've insulted Tipperary. Every Tipperary person I know is hugely insulted by what you're after saying there. But
Yeah.
we're going to go with it anyway, and we'll take. Look, I've had a rough couple of weeks here, so will you give me that?
They're going to get a bit rougher, I'd say. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, look, that's the end of the show. Brought to you again by OurGameRetro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you get 15% off. Thank you very much, Michael. We'll chat to you again soon.
Cheers, Shane.